Hello and welcome back to I Made This. My name is Ollie and today we're going to be restoring the 1991 Playmates Toxic Crusaders Hideous Hovercraft. Now this was gifted to me by my good friend Mr. Dan Plastic at the most recent NEC Toy Fair, and as you can see it's missing a fair few parts and accessories, and it's got damaged stickers, so it's going to take a lot of work to bring it back to its early 90s glory days. But I'm always up for the challenge, so without further ado, let's see how I get on. So on first glance, the hovercraft actually looks pretty good. You could put it on your shelf and no one would know. It's just missing a few key details just to kind of make it pop. Thankfully, one of the main play features still works, and that's the rotating propellers as you push it along. So I went on the internet and downloaded some images of some complete hideous hovercrafts, just so I knew exactly what stickers and accessories I need to make to complete the toy. So there are 6 accessories I need to make, such as this smog stack, a part of the gun turret, a second control stick, a second handle, one of these little round disc things, and a slime faucet, which hopefully will work and slime will be able to pour out of it, fingers crossed. There are a bunch of missing stickers and also stickers that are in need of repair. So the first accessory I'm going to make are these smog stacks, or as the back of the box says, the pure air pipes, because it's Toxic Crusaders and they're all about cleaning the environment. But yeah, anyway, and I'm going to make this using pencil crayons of all things, and that's because they perfectly fit inside the area where the smog stack's supposed to go, and they go 5 tubes across and then 4 at the back. So I start off by cutting them at right angles. And they're all different heights, so I have to cut them accordingly. And here they're all laid out. And then I just glue them all together then. And then I'm going to sand off the excess pencil there, just because all of these accessories were always kind of soft and all rounded, weren't they? So they came out of the moulds a lot easier, so that's what I'm going to do. And now I'm going to glue them on top of each other, but kind of stack them in a way that they're a little bit staggered, so some are a little bit forward and some are a little bit back. You'll see what I mean in a minute. It was pretty tricky doing this, actually. And there we go. I don't know if you can quite see, but the white, the blue and the yellow are a little bit front facing, whereas the pink and the green are a little bit further back. And now I'm going to make the 4 pipes that go behind it. It's the same process as before, cutting them at a right angle and just gluing them together. And then instead of staggering them, these just go one on top of the other. And all the pipes are different heights because with all Playmates toys, nothing's symmetrical. And there it goes, just fits on the back there. So now I'm going to glue them together. And look at that, fits like a charm. So yeah, this is Milliput. It's a 2-part epoxy, which I think was used for fixing cars back in the day, but now it's more for craft stuff. But basically you mix it 50-50 and roll it around your hands until it's all blended together. Leave it for 5 minutes and you can start to work with it. And yeah, I'm just basically filling in any gaps and kind of making sure that it's all nice and smooth, so that when it comes to moulding there's no gaps or areas where the silicone can seep into, and that it's nice and solid. And also all those old Playmates accessories were always very soft and rounded, weren't they? There was no like harsh edges on those things, just so they could be released from the moulds a lot easier and didn't get air bubbles and things like that. And the good thing about Milliput is it works well with water, so you can kind of wash off any excess and kind of make it nice and smooth. You probably have a good hour, hour and a half, maybe 2 hours tops to work with milliput once you've mixed it together. And then after 24 hours, once it's dry, you can sand it down. And here I am just giving it a coat of primer just to fill in any extra gaps. And there it is. It almost looks finished now. I could probably use that if I wanted to, but no, I want to cast this and make it out of resin. So now I'm just preparing the smog stack for the moulding phase, and I do that using foam core just because it holds in the silicone really well. And I glue the smog stack onto one side of the mould casing and then just build the walls around it using a hot glue gun and extra pieces of foam core. And eventually you get a full box in which you'll then pour in your silicone. So now I'm going to build this centre part of the gun turret, or as the back of the box says, the rotating soapy scum shooter. And I'm going to make that by using two different thicknesses of plastic rods, one thicker and the other one obviously a bit thinner. And I cut them to length. I have no idea how long these are supposed to be, so I'm just guessing. And I glue the two parts together. And I use a little bit of milliput just to make it a little bit thicker on the thinner end, just so it fits flush inside of the little rotating soapy scum shooter bit. And then for the next part of this build, I'm going to use the inside of a dog poo bag. And I find these really, really handy. And yes, I do in fact have a dog. I don't just own poo bags for the sake of it. But yeah, so I cut it down to size. And as you can see, it's going to fit just over the top of the end of the middle part of the turret bit that I'm making. And I fill it with milliput inside of it. I just cram it in there. And then I squeeze the one end inside of it, so it'll have a nice tight fit. I then push the other end of the soapy scum shooter into it, creating like the negative space, so that hopefully once I've moulded and casted this like little centerpiece, that little end of the gun will fit inside of it. Then I just neaten up the excess milliput. And as you can see, it fits quite snug. And there's the finished piece, and there it is primed and ready for moulding. Now for the moulding, I just use a paper cup, like a party paper cup, cut it down to size. I then glue the piece of the gun turret inside of the paper cup using a little sprue, which will help the resin pour inside of the mould. Now this is a really fun feature of the hovercraft. Basically this barrel, if you put slime inside of it and then slide this faucet inside of it, the slime will pour out and it looks awesome. And because I have one of these faucets already, it means I just have to make a mould of it, but I have to do it in two parts. So first off, I have to take off this O-ring, lovely neon pink O-ring, and I'm going to be moulding the green part first. So I grab another paper cup and then I cut it down to size. And then using a piece of the foam core, I cut a hole in it and then I place the faucet inside of it so that it balances over the top and kind of hovers over the cup like this. And then I'll be filling it up with silicone inside. So now I'm going to be preparing one of these little round disc things. And again, because I've got another one of those, I can easily make a mould of that by attaching this little piece of Lego as a sprue. And then glue it on, and then glue it to the inside of a cut down paper cup. And then I need to make a control stick, but thankfully there's already one on the other side, so I need to pull that out. And much like with the round discs, I use a sprue, which again is just another piece of Lego, and I glue the control stick onto it. And the sprues just help with pouring resin inside of it, just so it's kind of got a little bit of a funnel. And again, I glue it on the inside of a cut down paper cup. And much like the other accessories, I have one handle, but it's missing the second handle. So I prise that off carefully. And again, using the Lego sprues, I glue it to the inside of a cut down paper cup, ready for silicone to be poured inside of. So now we're getting ready to make the moulds, and we're going to start off by pouring the silicone inside of a paper cup, followed by the catalyst. And it's a 10:1 ratio, so if you put 300 grams of the silicone in, you put 30 grams of the catalyst in. And then you mix it together until all the catalyst is mixed in with the silicone. It's a nice consistency. And then you pour it inside of the mould, preferably from a great height just to avoid air bubbles. You can use a vacuum chamber for this. I have one, but I need to get some oil to get it up and operational again. Now, this is not the first time I made this mould. We'll get to that a bit later on. But what I'm having to do is seal it up and cut a hole in it and then spin it round, then poking out any air bubbles that could be around the smog stack on the inside. And then I top it up with a bit more silicone and leave it for a day to harden. Now I'm filling the rest of the accessories with silicone. So for the faucet, I decided to pour a little bit on the inside just to make sure that there was silicone on the inside, because sometimes it can create air bubbles or air traps and the silicone might not go up there. But I wanted to go up there because I want that area to be hollow. And you'll see why later on. And again, just pouring silicone into the moulds of the other accessories. And then you leave that for 24 hours and you come back to it the next day. And it's ready to dismantle your mould cases and cut out your accessories that you've either made or just casted. And yeah, that one's worked pretty well. I'm pretty chuffed with that one. And again, I'd probably normally do 2-part moulds for these things, but because I only have to make one of each item, I'm not really too fussed. And the good thing about silicone is you can cut it up into pieces and reuse it again in future moulds, just to bulk it out so you're not wasting too much silicone. And I am being careful while cutting out the accessories, especially the ones that were already existing on the toy, because I don't want to damage them. So now I've made a mould for the green area, I'm now going to do the rest of the faucet, so the little wheel and the rest of the tube. Now the wheel, I am quite hesitant about this. This might not work because small pieces sometimes have a tendency not to come out very well, especially for me anyway. I'm not great at these kinds of things. Now I'm going to pour some silicone inside of the tube. Now this might not work because if it goes all the way through, there's a good chance that once all the silicone is dry and I pull it out, the tube will just remain inside of the faucet anyway and will render it pointless and useless. But again, I want this to be operational, that slime can pour out of it. But to avoid any air bubbles, I also used a syringe just to get that silicone inside of that tube. But it might not work, it's a risk, but we'll see. So again, carefully cutting it out. Did it work? No, it broke off in the inside, but the bottom part is fine. It's just on the inside part that it broke off, which is fine. There's ways and means to work around that. And now I'm just going to remove this disc from its silicone encasing. This one should be a fairly simple one to mould. It's a very simple piece. Now I have a feeling this wheel is going to be a bit of a problematic piece when it comes to casting it, but we'll see. Who knows? It came out fine, so that's good. And now I'm just cutting out the handle. Again, this has got some intricate detail, so it'll be interesting to see how well this comes out of the mould once casted. So now we're on to the casting phase. I've got my pigments, I've got some neon greens, neon yellows and some greens to make the bottom of the faucet, or as it's actually called, the pollution pumping plunger pipes. And as with most or all resins, it's 50-50 mix plus the pigment, and you mix it all together, and then using a syringe I pipe it inside of the mould. I should be wearing gloves, but I didn't. And once it's set, you carefully pull it out of the mould. And you know what? For a first pull, that's not too bad. And I'm just cutting off the excess resin and then just sanding it down, ready for the rest of the pipe to be glued onto it later on. So now I'm going to make the neon pink accessories, and I've got some neon pink and blue pigments to do that because it's a little bit purpley. And again, it's a 50-50 mix of the resin plus the pigment, and then you mix it all together. And you've only got a couple of seconds to kind of work with it really, otherwise it gets hard after about 30 seconds to a minute. And you carefully pour it inside the moulds. And I apologise for that really crappy drawing of Batman, but I'm one of those people, if you're ever on the phone to me, I'm usually doodling, and I end up usually doodling Batman for whatever reason, and they always look terrible. But yeah, I'm just using the syringe just to get it in all the nooks and crannies of the parts. So here's one of the discs, one of the detachable antacid depth charges. And you know what? That's come out really, really well. I'm so pleased with that. And now I'm pulling out one of the control sticks, or the good guy grips as it's called on the back of the box. And that's come out really well as well. I'm really happy with that. And now the part of the rotating soapy scum shooter, the turret bit, the middle bit. Again, really happy with how that's come out. And now the pollution pumping plunger pipe. From the outside it looks like it's pretty good actually, it looks like it's got all in there. And just carefully taking it out of the mould. Oh yes, I am so pleased with that. The end of it, I don't have to worry about that, that'll be sanded off, but I'm so pleased with that. And now it's this problematic wheel. Let's see how well this has turned out. You have to be really careful taking these out and let it set for quite a while, otherwise it's quite brittle if you take it out too early. But look at that, oh my god, I can't believe how well that's turned out. So now I'm going to be doing the pure air pipes, or the smog stack. And I've got like a black pigment. I'll only use a little bit of that, otherwise it'll be overpowering, it'll be too dark. Whereas the grey's quite light on this accessory. And again, it's 50-50 mix with the resin and a little bit of the pigment. Give it a good old mix. And then I'm pouring it inside of the handlebar first. And again, just using a syringe to get in all those nooks and crannies. Just carefully pulling it out, because again, this is a small part like the wheel. And with a little bit of cleanup, it might look alright. There's a little bit of flashing. Flashing is like excess resin. But look at that. I'm so pleased with that. It's turned out perfectly. Look at that. Oh yeah. Now we're going to do the smog stack, or the pure air pipes. Just doing a little bit of a pre-pour at the bottom to make sure that the resin gets in there and there's no air pockets, and then I fill it up to the top. And while there's a few little holes, those won't be seen because they'll be on the inside of the toy. Let's see how it goes. Oh yeah, look at that. That's pretty good, you know. I'm pretty pleased with that. And I'm just like sanding off the excess just so it's nice and smooth. But yeah, I don't think that's too bad, you know. On the left hand side is my very first attempt at moulding this, and as you can see I've got massive air pockets at the front, and it just was terrible. That's why I had to do it a second time. Well, actually I did it a third time, because the second time, here's the second time. Basically, I accidentally used the wrong catalyst with the wrong silicone, and it just didn't set. This is after a week of it not setting. And as you can see, it just created a whole heap of mess, and it took so much effort and time to clean it off of the smog stack that I made. And big props to my friend Rob, Wheeler Faco. He helped me and gave me some tips of how to clean it off, and basically just said use baby wipes. And it worked, but it just took a lot of elbow grease to get it all off. So now we're on to the stickers, and for example, this one is upside down. This one doesn't even have the sticker. That's meant to have the Toxic Crusaders logo there. There's meant to be a Toxic Waste logo there. The antacid capsules have stickers all on them. And while a lot of these stickers are in good condition, I thought a lot of them are in the wrong places, or they're badly applied. So I thought the best course of action was to completely take them off. One, because then I could completely clean the toy for a start and not have to worry about damaging the stickers. And I thought, do you know what, I'll take this as an exercise to completely recreate these stickers, because again, while some of them are in good condition, like the printing wasn't perfect and there's a lot of colour separation on the actual stickers themselves, and while that sometimes gives it a little bit of vintage charm, I just thought it'd be fun to kind of like really neaten it up and make it look like how maybe the original toy makers intended. That's my idea anyway. And so basically now I'm just cleaning up the toy itself, just getting rid of any dust and grime that might be in the toy. I'm pretty sure it's clean. It was at Dan's house and he's a clean person, I assume. But you know, it doesn't hurt just to give it a little bit of a clean. And then I apply all the stickers to a piece of paper and then place it into my scanner and scan it. I then place the scan into Photoshop and I just recreate the stickers from scratch, basically using the original as a basis and a guide, because the scan is 1-to-1, so whatever I scan in and then print out, it should be the exact same size. And again, because there was a lot of colour separation and misaligning on the stickers, I was able to kind of correct those errors and make it, I don't want to say perfect, because these toys shouldn't be perfect, but just make them look a little bit neater. Now this Toxic Crusaders logo, I didn't even have one of these to base it off, so I had to download one of the logos off of the internet and trace around it and completely create it from scratch, essentially. And then these go onto the toxic waste barrels that have the plunger on the inside. Now this sticker was really tricky because there's no good photos of this on the internet anywhere, because it's in such an awkward spot that you can't really get a direct photo of it. So Dan kindly sent me 2 photos from 2 different angles, and I had to kind of adjust the perspective and skew it and warp it to kind of fit the shape and the size that I'd measured out, and then just redrew it basically and recolored it. And I actually thought this was going to be a lot more work than it was, this sticker, but it wasn't too bad, to be honest. I assume this is like all cleaning gear that the Toxic Crusaders use to clean up the hazardous toxic waste that the villains leave everywhere. Dr. Kill-em-off and all that lot. Psycho, Bonehead. Who else is there? I've forgotten the other one. Radiation Ranger, that's it. I have a feeling these stickers were made using the alcohol-based pens that graphic designers use. So to emulate that effect, what I did was I downloaded an image of just watercolour paints and I overlaid it on top of all my stickers, as you can see, and it gave it just that like kind of hand painted effect to it. Whether or not that detail will come out when it's all printed, who knows. And then I carefully cut out every single sticker. Now this took a lot longer than I thought it was going to take. There's around 30 stickers for this vehicle alone, I think. So Yeah, and now it's time to actually apply them onto the vehicle. Now this is really satisfying, this part, because this is where it's all starting to come together now, and it starts to feel like a complete piece. There we go, put it in the right way up. And I have kept all the old stickers just for prosperity. If I ever wanted them, I've still got them and they're in really good condition. But for this, I thought it would just be fun to use my own stickers that I'd made. And that's the last one. Now it's time to assemble it all together. So I placed the flag in some boiling hot water and then placed it on a flat surface and just held it there for a while it cooled down. And then eventually it returns back to its original shape, so it's nice and flat. It may bend again because plastic has a little bit of a memory to it, and it might bend back to how it was, but all I have to do is repeat the same process and heat it up again and straighten it. So because the silicone broke off in the mould for the plunger pipe, I'm having to drill or bore a hole inside of it so that the slime feature works. This took a long time to do because I had to painstakingly file it just to make sure that the hole was big enough. Eventually I got there. Took about half an hour, and now I'm just knitting at the edges with a bit of sandpaper, ready for gluing on the green part. Look at that, it's looking good already, but there's just one part missing. And while I was on eBay, I searched for neon pink O-rings, and I found some, and I ordered a couple in various sizes, and one of them, like Cinderella's shoe, it fit perfectly. And look at that, I think it looks really good. I'm really pleased with how that's turned out. And now it's time to put it all together. And voila, here it is, all finished. I am so pleased with how this has turned out. And while I realise on first glance it doesn't look like much has been done to it, like really there has. You know, I've built 6 accessories and a ton of new stickers that, you know, I didn't even have originally to base anything off of. And yeah, I'm really pleased with how it looks. I think it looks as good as it can. I think the pink on one of the faucets and maybe the gun turret are a little bit off, but you know, all I have to do is recast those again if I want to make them a bit more toy accurate. But now it's time to see if the pollution pumping plunger pipe works. Fingers crossed. Oh yeah, look at that. Beautiful. And I think the stickers look pretty authentic, especially the ones I had to create from scratch. You know what? I think it's a job well done, if I do say so myself. So I want to thank my good friend Dan for gifting me this toy in the first place. I've had a blast working on this, so I really appreciate it, so thank you very much. I've got my eye on a couple of other vehicles, such as the Toxic Turf Surfer, which I have, which requires a little bit of love. It's actually in pretty good condition, but it just needs a few little bits here and there to kind of make it complete. But I do have my eye on a helicopter, and I think that will be the ultimate Toxic Crusaders restoration project. But yeah, I think that about wraps it up. Thank you very much for watching. I really appreciate it. If you don't already, please consider subscribing to my channel. I'd really appreciate it. Give the video a like and hit that bell icon. Don't know what it does something, but feel free to hit it anyway. You can reach out to me on social media. I'm on Facebook and Instagram. Just search for I Made This. And yeah, until next time, take care and goodbye. Hang on a minute. What's this? God damn it. I've missed a whole sticker. Okay, now it's done. I'm going now. Bye.